EFCO is the industry leader in aerial self-spanning concrete construction, and the EFCO plate girder forming system will provide the lowest in-place concrete costs on your bridge project, including columns, piers, abutments, and walls. Designing a best practice process for assembly, cycling, and safety for your project is the key to success. EFCO has been involved in bridge construction for over 75 years. All projects are slightly different from one another, but by forming a partnership with your team and EFCO's engineers, this detailed planning process helps assure complete project success. EFCO's series of safety and training videos will share with you detailed demonstrations of methods for assembling and cycling the EFCO plate girder system for bridge pier construction. Because safety is everybody's job, this video will focus on safety and reducing labor costs and effort on your project. You must observe and follow all safety guidelines and applicable codes at all times. Think safety and work safely. Caution: OSHA requires the employer to provide a safe working environment. Contractors must comply with all OSHA standards related to bridge pier construction. Pay special attention to subparts L and M regarding scaffolds and fall protection. Fall protection must be maintained at all times while cycling the cap forms. When fully assembled, a cap form may provide fall protection using guardrails. During the stripping and setting process, there are situations where workers need an alternate fall protection system. Harnesses with lanyards or positioning hooks are recommended. It is suggested that workers install fall protection anchor points on the top of the cap to allow workers to safely access the top of the cap when guardrails are not in place. These workers may use ladders, scaffold stair towers, crane-held man baskets, or hydraulic man lift for access to the top of the cap. Please note that the assembly and cycling requirements for your project may differ from the examples used here. At EFCO, we will keep safety and productivity in mind as our engineers and field service representatives help you design the best assembly method for your project. The EFCO plate girder system is rated with a maximum 1,400 pounds per square foot pour pressure, allowing you to pour concrete easier and faster. Warning: pouring too fast may cause form rupture, resulting in serious injury or death. Do not exceed the rated capacity of the forming system. Planning the work and working the plan is the key to success. Good engineering support by both EFCO and your own personnel for your project is of course a requirement. EFCO engineers can help with panel size requirements, bolt-through placement on columns, plans, and specifications. In addition, and maybe most importantly, careful planning and consideration must be made in the assembly and cycling of any cap form. The complete steel form setup of plate girder, including the scaffolding, must be pre-planned in detail to facilitate the stripping and cycling of the form. Before assembling any forms, users should read and understand the drawings prepared by EFCO's engineering team. The drawings have panel sizes and instructions that are specific to each project. Understanding the drawings is critical for the safe and efficient construction of the bridge pier. Contact EFCO's field service representative or EFCO engineer for the project with questions about the form erection drawings and forms. Large form assemblies are made from plate girder forms connected with high-strength bolts. These bolts resist high loads. It is necessary to pre-tension the plate girder corner-bearing block bolts using a torque wrench to assure that the assembly of forms will become a single structural member. Other bolts, like the EFCO quick bolt, should be tightened snug tight. Refer to EFCO drawings for torque specifications. EFCO's standard plate girder forms make excellent column forms. To assemble a column form setup, start on the ground with the plate girder panels lying face side down. Assemble the forms with the toes of the rib pointing to the top of the column. In this position, the ribs act like rungs of a ladder. With the addition of proper safety equipment, the EFCO column form can be climbed like a ladder. Caution: do not use fingers to align the forms. Use spud wrenches. Bolt corner bearing blocks with 1" by 4" A325 bolts. Torque to 700 foot-pounds. With the one side on the ground, bolt on an EFCO heavy-duty outside angle corner. If the project is calling for a chamfered corner, EFCO provides an excellent 3/4" by 3/4" rigid plastic fishtail chamfer. The tail of the chamfer is inserted between the plate girder flange and the outside angle corner and secured with EFCO's high-strength quick bolt. For column forms with many pores, EFCO offers a welded steel chamfer to the forms. If you're planning to strip the column in two halves at opposite corners, decide at this point where the fishtail chamfer will travel with the stripped form setup. Assemble the second side of the plate girder side form, repeating the same sequence as the first side. Turn the first side of the plate girder column form over, face sheet up, and set the second side of the column on edge and bolt it to the first side. Attach pipe braces with pipe brace shoes at the upper end. Temporarily tie this bottom end of the brace to the form with wire. Add lifting eyes to the top and apply the oil form release agent to the face sheets. Depending on the height of your column to be formed, this may be a good place to add a complete scaffolding setup to at least one side of the column form, including the EFCO provided scaffold brackets and the contractor supplied planks, toe board, mid rails, and top rails. Fall protection systems for climbing the form should be installed at this time. Accessories for rope grabs or self-retracting lifelines may easily be attached at the top of the form while the form is lying down. The two sides of the column form should now be ready to set into place. Attach the crane to lifting eyes and stand up the L-shaped half of the column form that has the pipe braces attached. Set the form in the pouring position. Secure the bottom of the form with drilled anchors or pins while extending the pipe braces and securing them to footings or temporary concrete blocks specified by the job site project engineer. Using fall protection, climb the form to release the crane from the form. Another method for erecting column forms is to assemble the entire box while lying on the ground. The box may be lifted over the rebar and set in place if crane size and rebar allows this method. Similar to the first half, assemble and stand up the remaining L-shaped form assembly and set in place. Anchor the bottom of the form. Using fall protection, climb the form to bolt the corners with sufficient bolts to secure the form. Release the crane. Continue to bolt the corners until all necessary bolts are in place. Using pipe braces, square and plumb the column form. Carefully pour concrete in the form. Refer to EFCO erection drawings for the pressure rating of the form assembly. Warning: pouring too fast may cause form rupture, resulting in serious injury or death. Do not exceed the rated capacity of the forming system. Pressure in the form is dependent on the concrete mix, the concrete temperature, and the rate of placement. EFCO erection drawings provide graphs to determine the rate of concrete placement when all the variables are known. It is the user's responsibility to monitor and manage the concrete temperature, the concrete mix, and the placement rate to prevent concrete pressure from exceeding the rated capacity of the form. EFCO offers a variety of support brackets and adjustable screw jacks designed to support bridge pier cap construction and eliminate shoring from the ground up. Bridge pier cap construction can be challenging. Detailed planning is required, including selection of equipment and detailed drawings with accurate dimensioning of the project. This work requires a partnership of your job site construction engineer and EFCO's engineering team. See EFCO's plate girder catalog for optional support brackets. The EFCO system uses bolt-through tubes that must be accurately placed in the pier. These tubes create the holes for the through bolts to hold the support brackets to the column. The most commonly used EFCO support bracket is the SB1, which uses two through rods 1 1/2 inch in diameter placed exactly 7 inches apart. For heavier loads and caps wider than the supporting pier, EFCO has a variety of support brackets to fit your project. These options run from a single 1 1/2 inch diameter high-strength rod to 2 inch diameter rods. Tape or wire the caps to the bolt-through tubes to extend the tubes to both faces of the bridge pier. Place the double bolt-through tubes with plastic caps at the proper elevation. Bolt-through tubes must be precisely located and perfectly level both ways. Firmly attach the tubes to the column reinforcing steel. Remember that the tubes may be hit by falling concrete. They will also tend to float in the concrete if they are not securely tied down. After pouring the column and stripping the forms, the ends of the plastic caps are cut away to open the holes for through bolts. The next step is to mount the support brackets on the column face. Access to this work is usually provided using a hydraulic man lift. Place the 1 1/2 inch through bolt through the column. EFCO through bolts have 3 inches of thread on one end and 21 inches of thread on the other. The end with 3 inches of thread is the end that is torqued. Place the SB1 bracket over the 3-inch threaded ends of the through bolts. Put washers and nuts on the through bolts, but leave only 1/4 inch of thread extending outside the nut. On the other side of the column, install the other SB1 over the 21-inch threaded end of the through bolts. Put the washers and nuts on the through bolts, turning the nuts until the through bolts are tight. Through bolts must be pre-tensioned to the minimum torque specified on EFCO drawings. A torque wrench with a 4-to-1 multiplier is required. Place the socket over the through bolt nut. Apply the 4-to-1 multiplier to the socket with the handle of the multiplier projecting down through the hole provided in the bottom flange of the support bracket. The 1 1/2 inch through bolt must be torqued to 1200 foot-pounds. Because we are using a 4-to-1 multiplier, set the torque wrench to 300 foot-pounds. Then apply the torque wrench to the torque multiplier. Before torquing operation is completed, both nuts must be rechecked for torque, one after the other, and again just before pouring concrete. Install the SJ2 swivel jacks and adjust to required elevation before setting the fully assembled plate girder cap form on the piers. For heavier pier cap loads, you may want to consider installing an EFCO accessory thrust bearing between the support bracket and the SJ2 swivel jacks. Assembly of EFCO plate girder formwork for your pier cap can be safely achieved on the ground. There's no need for performing potentially dangerous elevated work. After assembly, the cap formwork can be lifted and set in one pick and placed on top of the EFCO support bracket system. Depending on the crane capacity and rebar design, the rebar cage can be set inside the assembled cap on the ground and flown into position as one unit. Another method is to fly the rebar assembly in later after the cap form is set. There are a variety of soffit form options for bridge caps. If your project requires a fixed slope soffit, the soffit forms can be attached to the side forms with bolts through holes drilled in the side form. The EFCO plate girder Z-ribs give easy access and visibility to bolt through holes. For projects with varying soffit slopes, adjustable standard screw jacks are attached to the soffit form and then to bottom yokes supported by the side forms. When the bottom of the cap is flat, the soffit panel can be attached to the side form with outside angle corners, eliminating the need to create extra holes in the side forms. The EFCO engineering team can help you select the best option for your job and provide form erection drawings showing details of the assembly, placement, and cycling processes for your pier cap formwork. Let's start by explaining how to assemble a cap form with a flat soffit attached to the side forms with outside angle corner. Step 1. Start by constructing a cap form setup support structure with main supports at each wind beam location and at least 4 feet of vertical clearance for the hanging scaffold. A temporary setup of EFCO super studs may prove to be the best solution for a support structure. Place the bottom wind beams on top of the support structure. Step 2. Identify a level area to pre-assemble a plate girder soffit form. Assemble the soffit form panels with the ribs up, face sheet down. Attach the soffit panels end to end as specified on the EFCO form erection drawings. Attach the outside angle corners to the soffit forms. Depending upon your cap form being built, you may have multiple soffit assemblies to build for one cap form. Turn the soffit forms with the face sheet up and set on the wind beams. Attach the soffit panel to the wind beams. Step 3. Assemble the EFCO plate girder side forms on the ground with the face sheet down and the ribs up. Refer to the bolting and shimming guidelines outlined on EFCO's form erection drawings furnished for your project. Align the forms and bolt the plate girder corner bearing blocks with a 1" by 4" A325 bolt. Torque the 1" by 4" A325 bolt to 700 foot-pounds. This is now the time, if required, to add the fishtail